I could not describe it well.
私はうまく説明ができなかった。
I could not describe it well. I can't describe my feelings.
自分の気持ちを表現できない。
I can't describe my feelings. How should I describe that?
私はそれをどのように記述すればよいですか？
How should I describe that? Please describe exactly what happened.
何が起きたのか正確に話してみてください。
Please describe exactly what happened. That might have to be described in the contract.
それは契約書に記述されるべきかもしれない。
That might have to be described in the contract. He accurately described what happened there.
彼はそこで起きたことを正確に言葉で表した。
He accurately described what happened there. He described my plans as unrealistic.
彼は私の計画を非現実的だと評した。
He described my plans as unrealistic. It is described as follows.
これらは次のように述べられている。
It is described as follows. She described the scene in detail.
彼女はその場の光景を詳細に述べた。
She described the scene in detail. He described the accident in detail to the police.
彼はその事故について警察に詳しく説明した。
He described the accident in detail to the police. This obsolete interface is not described here.
古いインターフェースに関しては、ここでは記述しない。
This obsolete interface is not described here. This section describes the shutdown procedure.
この節では操作停止手順の説明をしています。
This section describes the shutdown procedure. She describes herself as an artist.
彼女は芸術家だと自称している。
She describes herself as an artist. He describes himself as a great statesman.
彼は自分のことを偉大な政治家だと言っている。
He describes himself as a great statesman. That word describes it perfectly.
その言葉がそれを説明するにはぴったりだね。
That word describes it perfectly. These control technologies are described briefly below.
これらの制御技術について簡単に説明します。
These control technologies are described briefly below. These steps are more fully described below.
これらのステップは以下でより詳しく説明されている。
These steps are more fully described below. She critically describes 6 social media platforms.
彼女は6つのソーシャルメディアプラットフォームを批判的に説明している。
She critically describes 6 social media platforms. The major socialist political movements are described below.
社会主義の主要な政治運動は以下のように記述されている。
The major socialist political movements are described below. The model described above is relatively simple.
上記のモデルは比較的単純です。
The model described above is relatively simple. She is described as being 12 years old.
彼女は12歳と表現されています。
She is described as being 12 years old. The document is further described on page 70.
この文書は70ページでさらに説明されています。
The document is further described on page 70.